right, so we had another week go by. We got another Live in the Mob. This week, I don't know if Big Craig will be able to make it on too much. He said he's out driving from a job site, so he might check in, he might not, I don't know. So this week I didn't have a whole lot of input as to what people wanted to hear about, so I kind of have a few things that I'm going to touch on, a little bit of topics and whatnot. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. So let's see who's all checking in here. If anybody's actually joined, you know, nobody watches this thing anyways, right? I could be wrong, but yeah, good to see you too, Terry. So, all right, oops, wrong thing. So, tell me. Oh, benefit of an X or an H pipe, of course. Well, they're going to balance out the exhaust from one side to the other. But that's something that balances the exhaust flow from one side to the other. Let's see if I can. There's some links. The X pipes will tend to have a higher pitch and more raspy. The H pipe will have a lower pitch and have more like a deep growl. In terms of horsepower and torque, there are some differences. You know, X pipe tends to have better power while the H pipe has better torque. I don't know if that's what you're kind of looking for, Terry, but you know, that's what I can tell you. And this isn't, there we go. Well, there is performance between the two, Terry. You know, it depends on what you're going after and what you're looking for. To your daily driver, shouldn't be much of a concern. You know, for your daily driver, it shouldn't be much of a concern because the difference isn't significant. However, if this is for a race car, you want the most power you can get, then an X pipe, that's where an X pipe is a better choice. So they kind of balance out the pressure between the two sides to, you know, it helps with scavenging and whatnot, kind of like when I talked about how I built my headers. You know, it helps with the scavenging, the exhaust, you know, better flow. So, and no, I don't want to sign up for that. Anyways, so if you guys noticed earlier this week, I had made a post with my hand next to a glob of body filler, and you can see some activator on there. And what that is I went and I just kind of threw some together and I set my hand next to it, kind of for a size comparison reference of, you know, how much filler and how much catalyst I throw in. Really, there's no real specific science to it. It's kind of a, you know, blob here and a blob there, and throw in some activator and call it a day, you know. So it just depends on what you want to do. So, anyways, this week I thought I would talk a little bit about panel fitment. Let's see. Didn't see it. We'll look for it. I don't know what you're talking about there, Terry, exactly. But, so there was a picture that I had posted of the passenger side on this Chevelle that I'm working on. And this picture shows a gap, and the picture does no justice of how bad the fitment was. The fitment, you could throw a dog through it, a cat, dog, whatever, And then there's also a picture of the driver's side where I had already adjusted and pushed the quarter to fit the deck lid. Now, things you got to remember when you are cutting the quarter panels loose, you're cutting different things loose. And this car had full quarter panels put on it. It had quarter panels, wheel tubs, floors. I'm trying to think. It had a rear panel put in it. All this stuff, you have to fit it all as you're going. So, and you want to have measurements and things, to put, measure to go back to, so how things need to go, measurements where things were, so you can get them back to fit. Terry, I will tag you in that post just so you can find it. The fitment of things. So in this car's case, they had they'd cut everything off of the car and then just started putting pieces back together and hoping that it would fit and hope that it would work. So the way you want to work things is you want to do one side at a time. And the unfortunate part, when this person had done it, I don't think they kept anything together. They just cut everything out and then says, okay, now we're going to stick a floor and stick the rear panel and the quarters and the wheel tubs. You want to leave one side of the car put together, one, so you have a reference, two, that you have some holes on the other side to kind of measure from and go from to match up to the other side, and get a good idea of what to do to try and match up to. So, and I don't have the car in front of me, so it's I've got to describe it of what to do. So what I probably would have done on this Chevelle is I would have left the deck lid bolted up, and I probably would have replaced the quarter panels first. And I know it's kind of difficult to do, but I would have replaced the quarter panels first, and then worked my way to the wheel tubs and the floors, just for the simple fact that it would have made it easier to make things line up and match up. And there was a lot more cutting and welding that I did on the back of this car to make things fit. So as I'm talking about this, I'm going to try and describe as best as I can. So around where the taillight pocket fits, and my hand is not a very good example, but we're doing the best we can. Around the taillight pocket, you have, and those have an extension that bolts onto them. And so the extension was down and it was out, so it didn't fit up properly. One, I had to cut the quarter panel loose along here and down here to make the quarter panel move over and up, but in the same time, I also, where the deck lid and the quarter panel met, I had to actually push up on that all along the whole trunk opening to make it match, the trunk lid so it would fit. So I used a porta power, pushed all that up, and then when I got back here where the quarter extension is, I had to cut it, loose, and then push the quarter out, and not only push the quarter out, but I also had to push the quarter up. So what I ended up doing first was I pushed the quarter up, and then I pushed the quarter out. Now, why am I going into the details like this? To explain what I did to fix what the previous guy screwed up. So when he had screwed that stuff up, I ended up having to fix it. So you want to work things so you can move in stages and keep fitting everything and make sure everything fits together properly, So, like I says, I would have started on that car with starting on the quarter panels and getting them all fitted. I'd do one at a time, and once I'd done that, and also keep in mind that your brace for your trunk hinge comes down to the wheel tub, and welds to the wheel tub. So that brace needs to be welded solid and stay solid so your trunk lid will stay solid. And why I say leave the trunk lid on is so that way you can latch it and you can make the quarter fit as you're putting the quarter on, make it fit to the deck lid. And that way, if you got to make adjustments before you make everything solid, you can. And working with that as best as you can. Now, then, like I says, I would move around and I would do the wheel tubs. And all in while doing this, you got to keep in mind that you have to place spot welds to weld these panels on. And that's something that you gotta remember and account for. So you want to drill your spot weld holes, as you're going, and work from there. And clamp things. You got to figure out how you're going to work it, as best as you can to make it happen. So with that being said, you got to take your time, you got to fit everything, and you got to look at it how you can make everything work. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. Now there's going to be other things, working towards fitment that you're going to run into, and you're going to say, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What should I do here? It's kind of a look at it and say, how can I make it work? How can I make it fit? That's the biggest thing that you got to be able to look at. Now, Terry, you want to know about seam sealer application. Seam sealer application. Like I said before, we use a TranStar brushable seam sealer. That TranStar, basically, it comes in a quart can. You use just a cheap acid brush from O'Reilly's or whatnot, and you just brush it on over the seams. You don't care how it looks. You don't care what it's going to, unless it's, like a seam on the quarter panel from a 66 or from a 68 or 69 Chevelle, the seam between the quarter panel and the rocker. Then you want to get a little particular about that, and you'll brush some in, and then you'll come back and squeege it out with your finger and clean it up. But that's about it. Seam sealer, it's not really anything pretty. It's something that we all do. We all have to put in there and seal the seams up and, do our best to make it work. And you want to know about panel bond. Panel bond is for like gluing your roof skins on or gluing door skins on quarter panels. I wouldn't recommend gluing a quarter panel on. There are places on a quarter panel that I will glue instead of weld, like the wheel arch. I will glue those. I have done that before, and it works quite well. Panel bond is a glue. It's meant to glue panels on, which actually when I get done with live tonight, I'm actually going to go and glue the roof on this 69 Chevelle, which that'll be interesting in and of itself. That'll be quite a bit of fun, actually, because I like doing that stuff. And I will glue it. I will glue it on the windshield and the back glass opening, and then on the drip rail, I will glue it there. And then after that, we're on the sail panel and the A-pillar, we'll end up welding that solid, make that, pretty solid. Let's see here. Just a second here. Make it solid. So, panel bond is a new tech. It's a very strong adhesive, Terry. You can use it to glue quite a bit on. The roof, I wouldn't be afraid to glue it on. Clean up those spot welds, drill out the spot welds, and you'll use a rotor broach or, it should be there, Terry. Use a rotor broach to clean it up. Oh. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, you there, Lincoln?
Yep, just got
All
on.
right. All right. Well, I seen you make a comment there about Dennis Taylor's 55, so I thought I'd ask you some questions about it. So,
All right.
So what did you see on it? Is it kind of a pro mod type deal, or is it a like Dennis Bailey's car? Or
He's
we lost Lincoln. I don't know what happened. Give me a second here. I'm gonna try and add Lincoln back in. So, anyways, Terry.
there. I'm back.
All right.
I lost video there.
All right.
He's doing a whole Molly frame underneath the whole thing. It's just an old body he bought, and he's doing a complete chassis under it right now. You guys need to get on his page and check it out, man. It's really nice.
Oh, we'll have to go and take a look at that.
It'll be a twin turbo, big block. I mean, the things it's going to be sitting on the ground too. I think the clearance when it gets done, it's only going to be probably like 2.5, 3.
Yep, we lost connection with him again. That's a bummer. Well, we'll go back here. I don't know what's going on. Facebook must be giving us difficulties tonight. Terry, yeah. So panel bonding on, panel bond the roof. You don't want to drill all the way through, your bottom panel. You're going to want to drill, like I said, use a rotor broach, or there are some hole saw bits that are that small for drilling spot welds that will cut just the spot weld, and you do it right, you won't go all the way through. You can go all the way through, but if you do a little bit, you'll be all right and get through. So yeah, I don't know what's going on here, Craig. I'm having difficulty with audio now. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's quite interesting. You got audio back in now? All right. Yeah, I know. The audio's not working on my end very well at all. Can't see any problems. I don't know what's going on. Well, shoot. Let's see if this works. If it helps the audio any. I doubt it will. All right. Got any audio there?
I can hear you now that I joined.
Okay.
So now the question is, I could not hear you.
All right. Got any audio there?
I can hear you now that I joined.
Yeah, I wonder if everybody else can hear us now.
So now the question is, I could not hear you. Terry Bledsoe says, "Good, got it back."
All right, we got it back. All right, there you are.
I'm like magic. I brought it back. Boom, done.
Yeah, magic. Boom. Oh, yeah. I don't know why it was going. That's interesting.
I didn't realize I had paint on my arm. I'm good.
Oh, paint? What were you painting? What were you painting?
I don't even know. Oh, painting something outside for the wife. I like that. Hey, do that again. Do that again.
All right.
I got this one.
No, I don't. I got those three.
God dang.
Yeah.
All right. So I gotta apologize for being late, but unfortunately that's this work season time of year, so I had to get home.
Well, hey, if we gotta adjust the live time a little bit and start doing 7:30, we can.
I'll just start paying attention to when I schedule my crap, I am home. So it's all right.
Work pays the bills. This doesn't.
Yep, and it's I got to keep selling stuff, so that's what it's about. But
yeah,
what are we talking seam sealer, or what are we looking at tonight?
Yeah, we moved on to Terry wanted to know about panel bond there, so panel bond, and I kind of described it. It's a pretty good glue, and then I was kind of talking as far as drilling out the spot welds. Did you want to use what we call a rotobroach? It's for drilling out the spot welds, and it's not designed to cut all the way through. It's kind of like a hole saw, very small, and it's only about as big as a spot weld, so it'll just cut the spot weld out.
Right.
But then as far as preparation goes, after you drill those out, you want to, grind down your edge, so your ledge for the new, where the seam is, and you want to get it all cleaned up, clean bare metal, and both of those, and your new panel and your old panel. And then what you want to do is put a bead of glue on both of them, and use a body filler spreader, and you want to spread it out halfway thin so it's even over everything. And then what you do is you put them together and you clamp them together, so that way they got that nice tight clamp. And you will have quite a bit squeeze out, but that's okay. You don't want a whole lot in there anyways, so that's why I said, you lay down a small thin bead. Yep, Mike Schroeder, that's right. Structural on roof skins, all glue and no weld. But remember, Mike, that we were taught that we should at least put spot welds in the corners. And Terry, the Blair spot weld bits. The only thing that I will tell you is, Terry, the Blair spot weld bits are cheaply made anymore, and if they catch the wrong way one time, they blow up. I mean, that's why we've gone to these newer ones. I'll have to take a picture of mine and send it to you, Terry, just so you know what it looks like. They're okay, but those ones, once they get caught in the least little bit, they blow up. So pinch weld around the around the windshield. Please pinch weld. Wow. Now they haven't told us that yet, Mike. That's quite interesting. I've never heard that one yet. Bear with me just a second here.
We got Big Phil Schaefer watching.
Yeah.
You can always tell it's Phil because that little icon, he's got the pretty wife sitting in the picture. I really don't look at Phil. I just see the pretty wife he's always got in his profile picture.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, so yeah, that being said, that's, that's the best way to do it, is glue the roof on. So, and I don't know what you're saying there, Terry, whether please weld around the windshield or whatnot. Yeah, what about the pinch weld, Terry? I don't know what you're, but yes, you would glue the pinch weld front and rear, and then you would glue the drip rail as well. Please for bringing supplies. Oh, I'll take I'll take a picture and send you a picture, so that way you kind of know what to look for, Terry. So let's see. I wanted to weld it, but we will see what happens. Weld windshield or glue. Terry, glue the windshield opening, front and rear, Terry. I don't know what Mike Schroeder Mike, you want to jump in the live here for a minute? And I might boot Craig off for a minute and then bring Craig back. So
Get Mike in there. Mike's already used it.
give me a second here. I'll bring you back, Craig. I'm going to bring Mike in. And we'll talk with Mike here on Panelbond and see what we've got. Hopefully it'll come. All right. What's up?
Hey, what's up?
So what were they telling you about?
Well, they said to not weld around, not to weld it because the heat from welding it would wreck the glue.
Yeah.
So the way I did my roof skin was, if you go and look at my pictures, and some of them I posted, but I left a 2-inch edge when I cut the old one off,
right.
And that was my glue area. And then in the front and the back, and the donor skin, the way I cut it, it almost kind of snapped onto. I mean, I could have. It felt like I could have not even glued or welded it the way the sucker snapped onto the car. It was ridiculous, but it was like a Tupperware. It was like a Tupperware lid. It fits super nice.
Yeah.
So I was just like, well, and everybody I talked to said that this stuff is stronger than weld. You'll rip the sheet metal before you'll rip any of this glued area.
Right.
And just, did it exactly how they wanted to do it. And, it's, we'll see what happens. And, I tell people if it pops off, it pops off.
Yeah. No,
I don't think it ever will.
They actually tested it, because there's a 3M plant here about 15 minutes away from me. And then there's Velmont, which is a place that Velmont Industries, they do a lot of stuff, overseas and around the country. They do a lot of welding and stuff, and they have a pull testing machine that it will pull and test the welds. And when they had one of their best welders do a sheet metal weld versus a panel bond weld, and when they put it on the 1,000,000-pound pull machine, they tested it, and with the panel bond, the sheet metal actually tore before the panel bond even thought of letting go.
Yeah.
The dry time, Lincoln, the dry time on panel bond usually is about 24 hours to be, solid enough to work with. Full cure, I don't remember, but I think full cure is like 7 days, to get full structural strength. But that panel bond, you don't have to worry about it letting go anytime soon. That stuff is tough as nails. But I do know that our 3M rep was telling us to put, just in the corners, put like a tack weld in the corners, and you're gonna burn away a little bit of your panel bond in the corners, but not enough to, cause any real issues.
Yeah, and I thought about that. I kind of wanted to drill holes in the donor skin and use it and spot weld across the front, and then in the back, and glue the sides, obviously. But I just the guy kind of scared me a little bit. I'm like, I don't want to wreck the integrity of the glue by welding it, and stuff. So
right, yeah, and you won't
fully glued.
Once if you do just little tack welds in the corners, it won't hurt nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and like I says, I'm on the 69 Chevelle on the sail panel and on the A-pillar. I'm welding all that solid, And for the most part, where I'm going to be welding on the sail panel and the A-pillar, it's not going to hurt the glue anyways. So, you still want to put just a little bit of a weld, on the corners, just to give it, some
right
to try and keep it from being able to shear on the corners. So,
well, yeah, and like Terry says, it's it's new technology and all that stuff, and you kind of get a little old school, and it's like I need something like I need that welder. You know?
Yeah. You're like, no, this doesn't seem right. It's it's not
Right.
not what I'm used to, you know.
Right.
But yeah, it's new technology and it's tough as nails. So
Yeah.
you know, it's good stuff. No.
You know, we'll find out.
Oh yeah, it'll surprise you. You'll be surprised. Did he cut off the flat portion of the pinch weld and just leave the part running down the seam? Is behind the rubber. Well,
Mine.
there's two layers. You got your inner structure and you got your outer structure or your outer skin. And you're going to drill the spot welds and take your outer skin off. There will be a lip that's still in there, Terry. And when you bring your new roof skin on, it'll set onto that lip and it will weld or it'll glue along that pinch weld seam. And I don't know, are you going out to your car there kind of?
When I put my skin on, it actually, you can kind of just barely see down along this edge. I mean, the skin, it's kind of hard to describe, and it's backwards in the video.
Yeah.
But
backwards.
it drops over my original skin. You know, like I said, it's kind of like a Tupperware lid.
You left.
It kind of
Now,
snapped onto the. So I didn't mess with any of my pinch weld stuff at all.
okay.
You know, none of mine I used. That's all original to the car.
Okay.
And same
Yeah,
with-
and see,
same
normally,
Same with the front. Like the front, it's right on this edge is where my skin overlaps.
okay.
So
Yeah,
none
so
of the
normally you'll go down
None-
where you're running your hand there.
Yep.
Normally you go down and take out the spot welds, and
Yep.
you'll glue it right there to the inner layer, and you see all the spot welds along the pinch there. And what you'll do is you'll actually glue it right there on that seam. So, or weld the new one right there on that seam.
Yeah. And see, and I didn't do any of that. I just glued it. You know, like I said, it just
It
just
it
like
laid
a
on
couple
pretty
of-
good for you.
Yeah, it laid on super awesome.
So, oh yeah, you got them snazzy door handles.
Small plug for Ken Diggett.
Yeah.
But then the inside, I don't know if you can see the little
Yeah,
purple
probably.
line.
Okay,
There's-
kind of.
There's the line where I cut the original roof skin off, and it's kind of hard to tell, but I mean, it's the structural stuff. It's purple, but yeah, the sides are all the way down both sides.
Right.
But,
Well, Terry's saying, it sounds good on the new skin, but donor skin may be an issue. If you drill them instead of drilling from the outside, if you drill from the inside or the underside, that's where you'll save your donor skin. And down the drip rail, the way you get the spot welds in there, is you actually take a cutoff wheel and you will go in there and you'll grind the spot welds out with the cutoff wheel. That's what I did on this Chevelle. I ground those out. It's
Yeah.
not very difficult. It's just a little tedious, is all.
yeah, it's
So
labor intensive.
yes. Right. We still live? We're good? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sneak out here. You still there? All right.
I mean,
I'm going to sneak out. I'm going to sneak out here and I'm going to go over to this Chevelle and I'm going to run through the rain so everybody can kind of get a bit of an idea here of what I'm trying to talk about. Oh boy, rain, it sucks. So anyways, now I'm over here in our other building. And so this will kind of help give Terry an idea and give everybody else a bit of an idea. I'm going to, turn my camera around. So you've got this, this here, which is the inner structure, and your normal roof will attach to here, and then down in the drip rails, it attaches down in here. And you can kind of see, I've got it all cleaned off, but you can see like right there, it's kind of cut down a little deep. And what I did is I took a cutoff wheel and I used the cutoff wheel and ground out the spot welds all the way along. And you can see some of the spots, but then I came back and I cleaned them up in preparation to panel bond. I've got all this cleaned up across here, and I will actually take that new roof skin and just set it right on there, clamp it, and call it good. And then back here, like it says, the sail panel here, I will actually weld that solid all the way along. And then up here, I will weld the A-pillar solid all the way. Yeah, and then I've got the new roof. I've got it all ground off on the inside. Same with the drip rails. And if you guys notice, I did a little cutting and fitting. That was because the roof skin aftermarket was too wide to fit down in between the A-pillars, so I had to do some cutting and welding so it would fit to make it work. So anyways, it's just a matter of cleaning it all up and making it work. So
Yeah. Good times.
Oh yeah. Any of you guys going to Mike Garrett swap meet? Lincoln, I don't know where Mike Garrett swap meet is, but I'm probably not going. So, but yeah, that's, big deal is just getting everything cleaned up and ready to go and fitting, and making sure everything fits. So I'll give you guys, since I was kind of talking earlier about the quarter panel fitment and whatnot, I had made a slice here to get my width gap on the deck lid so it would be more even all the way up. So, and like I said, I'd cut the quarter panel here, and then I'd also made a slice here, but I'd also cut it loose down here so I could push everything out and also push everything up. So I would get that fitment, get the fitment up and down, vertical, so so it's nice and flush, but also get it up, and then also get it so it would fit the quarter extension. And those are all things that, that you need to do to make sure everything fits and works. And that's what I was kind of talking about, spend time fitting everything and work at it so it'll all flow together.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, I think I'm going to go and I'm going to pull Craig back in real quick before I sign off for the night. So thanks for joining.
Yeah.
And we'll talk at you after a bit. Now, let's see. Can we bring Craig in? There's Craig. So now, and yeah, tonight after I get up here, I'm going to come back over and I'm going to come back over and I'm going to glue that roof on yet tonight. So now we're going to sneak back out in the rain and go back next door.
How many tubes or units of panel bond will it take to do that?
To be honest, I'll probably only use about half a tube of panel bond. So to put that roof on.
I use panel bond in my trunk. I don't know if you remember the troubles I had in my trunk when my body guy had his apprentice clean and spray my trunk, and he didn't find the rot spot that was up in my trunk. So as I was sanding and prepping to put in my bed liner for the trunk, I came across a pretty good sized hole and rusted area, and I ended up using panel bond to fix it. And it was right in the upper wheel well, where in the hard tops, you see there's a wheel well, and the upper part of the wheel well has a flap that it's overlapping the wheel well. Well, the top part was rotted, but the bottom one was not. So I was able to get up and clean it all out, grind it and brush it as best I could to bare metal. And then I just filled it with panel bond. And what I did is I took a 2x4 on the ground and kind of wedged it up in there to put pressure on that seam to close it. And, it's going to last longer than I have the car, that's for sure. But,
Right.
So now I know, did you guys talk about seam sealer earlier?
A little bit.
Is there different brands better than others? Or is it always 3M's always the best?
We use Transtar. 3M. 3M's good. Transtar's a decent, good, a good one. And it's just what we use. It's what we've always used. It's decent price point, and it works. It lasts. I haven't had anything come back to where the seam sealer has had an issue or let go. As long as you got good, clean, what you're sticking it to, and not something that's full of dust and dirt,
Right.
use it.
Well, because I'm looking at my photos here. I'm going to pull some photos up on my screen, and I'm going to show you. I think I've got a couple here from when I had to use it. For some people that remember that when I got my car back from the shop, my guy kind of neglected a few things. So, but of course, can I find it? I got it here. Am I just that boring, or did I lose your?
Nope. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm pulling up different seam sealers. And there's. Okay. Yeah.
This is the spot that was up on top of the wheel well, very hard to reach because it was back behind the trunk supports. They get welded down, so very tough to reach. So the guy, he did a little hand sand, sprayed it with black paint, and then I get in there and I'm prepping it for bed liner, and this is what I come across. But you can see that bottom piece of metal right there was fine. That was solid. I couldn't poke through it. And so I ended up cleaning this whole area down to bare metal, all by hand, because he couldn't get a power sander in there, of course. And then I did some rust neutralizer, I think, and then we just did panel bond over it. And that was what it looked like. Because you can see here's looking at it from the back end area. Here's that support coming down for the trunk.
Right.
And that's where it was, way up there.
Okay. Yeah, that's a difficult spot to get up into.
Yep. So kind of neglected it, but that was one spot. And I was going to mention also, because of the seam sealer issues here. Nobody wants to look at that. God, good thing it wasn't naked people. Okay, so as we talk about seam sealer, in my trunk area also, back in the pan, I don't know what you call it, like the tail pan area. So I've got this area here. I'll show you. So imagine this here. Now, this is how bad his paint job was. See all the overspray with dust in it? This was in the trunk area. I didn't really care because I knew I was using bed liner, so that you can see my sanding marks here where I was sanding it down to prep for bed liner. And I come across the old seam sealer that he didn't take out, and there was rust in there.
Mhm.
So continued to the other side. So as I started to get I guess we call it even a screwdriver, it started to pry and go, it was all rusted through. So you can see the holes right there.
Right.
And there you can see up into the trunk from underneath.
Oh my.
And so they're not as big as you think they are, because I mean, it's a really zoomed in picture, right?
Right.
But it's still enough to cause concern. So what I ended up doing is, of course, Jim Noren was helping me, and I got underneath, and because it was rusted right at the pinch weld, I cleaned it all up. We wire brushed it, and I actually took some like a pliers and bent the pinch weld together, because
Right.
nobody's ever going to see that part of the car. So wire brushed it, primed it, and then I put seam sealer in that whole thing and filled it up, and I pinched it just enough so the seam sealer wouldn't fall through. You know what I mean? So, and then on the backside, I retouched up all the black paint, and it's kind of a sore spot because I would have liked, how do you repair that without cutting too much floor away, first of all?
Right.
And the car was already painted. So that's why we use seam sealer. But I couldn't get any seam sealer. I ended up getting some gray stuff that was sold at Napa, and I don't remember the name brand, but it was a sticky, ugly mess. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it is. It is. Terry was asking about the 3M Fast and Firm being an exterior use only. Terry, keep in mind that the odors from these, all of them have some sort of a chemical smell to them. And over time, the chemical smell is going to go away, as it dries and whatnot. So I wouldn't let that deter you. If you want to use a Fast and Firm, that's fine. But like I says, for the most part, we use the TranStar brushable seam sealer. Now I went and I just kind of Google searched body seam sealer real quick. And there's a bunch of Eastwood, there's, 3M, there's a bunch of different ones. And the thing that I will tell you, even Jigs has seam sealer. There is a 3M, there's a heavy bodied seam sealer. And that the heavy bodied seam sealer would probably be for your pinch welds, on your toe boards or around your wheel wells. And even your, the brushable you can use on the pinch welds or on the trunk seams. And there's also for like your drip rails, there's what's called self-leveling seam sealer, and that's usually a two-part seam sealer. So, and that, that's one that we use on, a 3M, seam sealer. We use the self-leveling just because when it flows out, it creates a nice level, and it looks nice and pretty. Now I see Terry, pinch weld. So pinch weld to the toe board, to be honest, I would use that TranStar. It'll fill it in. I wouldn't be too worried about it. It'll make a nice, and the thing of it is, it's going to be covered up by your carpet and everything. That brushable seam sealer, you aren't going to really care what it looks like. If you're kind of worried about it in the trunk area, around the wheel tubs and whatnot, lay down a couple pieces of tape, one to follow on the trunk floor, one to follow on the wheel well, brush it in and then come back with your finger and just smooth it out with your finger and then peel the tape off. That way you got a nice, smooth, sharp edge, and then you smooth it out with your finger and make it look, that much better. If that's what you're kind of worried about in the trunk or whatnot, that stuff works pretty good. But yes, the TranStar does build up, pretty good,
That's actually a good point, Dan. That's I was watching that DD Speed Shop, and because he does a lot of welding and floor replacement, and so when he does seam sealer, the funny thing is he claims to be a hack, and he's just putting stuff together. And I've talked to him quite a bit. He's a nice guy, but when he does a seam sealer, he does just what you said: put 2 rows of tape down. He squirts it in, takes his finger, smooths it, peels the tape, and it looks professional. It's just a nice, clean look. The same thing when I'm when I do caulking, like on tile and certain areas, I tape top and bottom, smooth it with my finger, pull the tape, and it looks like a factory edge when you're doing tiling in a house, and it's the same thing. So that's good.
And it looks nice. You know, it gives a decent edge, and it looks, you know, okay.
Yep.
So,
very cool.
Say, okay, it looks good, you know, comparatively speaking.
Yep.
To what it could be. And the other thing, you know, in your case where you did the bed liner in the trunk, did you roll it in or did you spray it?
No, that's a three-part deal, so that's all sprayed in.
Okay, so with that being said, in your trunk, you could have peeled out all the seam sealer on like the wheel tubs and whatnot.
Yep.
And when you go in, depending on the kind of gun that you use, no, I was not going to pick my nose. I just had to scratch.
It was
At
close.
first, it looked like I have an itch.
That's okay, because earlier everybody was talking about inner skin, loner skin. I was about ready to stop on the skin stuff earlier. So,
but anyways, in your case, with spraying the bed liner in, you could have peeled out all the seam sealer, and what you could have done is sprayed a coat on the seams first, and then come back and sprayed in your bed liner over the rest of the stuff. So you spray a coat of the bed liner on the seams, and then come back and spray your bed liner. And so you've got some in there, and then you've got another, you know, you're putting an actual layer over top of that. So then the bed liner would have sealed it up, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. You wouldn't have to seam seal it anyways.
right.
So, and, you know, it's one less step.
Yep, no, that is true. It would have been a good last step. And like that, the gun that I use, it's basically like an undercoating gun.
Yeah, a Schultz gun. It's basically got a siphon tube down into a can, and then it's just got a tube sticking out, you know, and you pull a trigger, and it just shoots it out of a tube or a straw type deal.
Yep. And I started with, the key to that is, it's called Liner Extreme, and there's many kinds out there. And I really like this one. It's really economical. I mean, I did my whole trunk for I think an $85 kit, probably more now, and I still have a third of it left. And you put it on heavy, so the lower your pressure is, the heavier, the more chunky it looks. And then as you get more coats, as soon as I got the coats built up, I cranked my pressure up, so then it started getting finer and kind of filling in some areas to give me the right, you know, coat that I wanted. But it was a good way, because my trunk is so rough, as far as it didn't have any rust except, well, where I showed you, but like the pan of it was bellied. Now, that's another, kind of a trivia question, but if you look in most 55, 6, and 7 Chevys, what look was that? Like, here we go again.
No.
Anyway, so if you go where you're on the base part of the trunk, where you hang the gas tank from, the very early 55s did not have any extra plates for bracing where the tank straps are. So my VIN with my VIN number, or whatever you want to say, I've got a very early build car, so there's a lot of things that were different about it. So I don't have those welded into the trunk floor, and so my trunk floor goes kind of like this at one point, kind of bellies down. And the later model 55s is something they add in is those braces. So that's why, without those, my trunk is kind of beat up, but by doing the bed liner, it covered absolutely all of those kind of mistakes. And I think more people should bed liner. If it was up to me, I'd bed liner the whole car. I don't have to worry about scratches.
Yeah. So you said trivia question, and I'm looking for something. And so, I'm gonna send this to you real quick, Craig. Hopefully you can read.
How are you sending it to me?
Messenger.
Oh, okay. Because I was on my other Facebook page, you know, making sure I'm staying out of Facebook jail, so I'll switch here.
Yeah, this is on your Craig.
Gotcha.
See,
Got it.
and you can find the answer at the end or down about the fourth comment.
Oh, that's an awesome question. That's a very good trivia question. All right. So, considering we're at the 1 hour mark here, and I was late again because I will get better at this, I promise, guys. So, trivia question: where we got 6 guys in? It's kind of a letdown to only see 5 or 6 guys on because we're doing so well. But we're going to build it up more through the week, and I take the responsibility on myself because we got to do a little promotion, obviously, and get some things going here. So,
yeah,
all right.
I need to do a little bit better promotion of it.
For the, I really wanted to be home, and I was going to actually take some caulk out and make a seam and show people how to do your tape effect. I actually thought about that earlier today, but then I'd have to use the word caulk, and I didn't want to do that because Terry would start laughing, and then he couldn't type, and so be it. So for the guys that are on here, here's a trivia question.
What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go to the mob, and I am going to make a post that says this week's trivia. And they will need to respond to that one to get to answer. And I am not going to give them I'm not going to give them A, B, or C.
No, I don't think you should give them any.
So now you go ahead and fire off, and then they have to respond on the post in the mob as to the answer.
Okay. Here we go. Mike Schroeder, he just won all of the above. How many tiny bow ties are contained in the aluminum trim on a 1955 Bel Air instrument panel? The question was, how many tiny bow ties are contained in the aluminum trim on a 1955 Bel Air instrument panel? Thank you for playing. Dan, we'll talk to you later.
All right, we'll talk to everybody later.